I see you, Scott, over there. Feel free to
Hi.
unmute yourself and feel free to uh, make yourself visible with your camera. There you are. How are
There
you
we
doing?
go. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Good to
perfect.
see you.
Well, we passed the biggest hurdle, which is making sure the technology is working today.
That is, we all think it is has to be so straightforward and simple. Like we have, just as we know ABCs, we know what Zoom culture is, but it still has its own amazing things. Go. Thanks again for closing out our let's say session here today. We had some really amazing thoughtfulness and meaningfulness shared over here. So how are you doing? How was the last weekend? Anything fun you did?
It's just been really busy. But recently I had an opportunity to travel to Colombia with a friend of mine, and it was my first time in South America, and visit the city of Bogota and a little farm outside, and it was really different. Very interesting. The countryside was beautiful. The people were amazing. So
When was
that's
this?
probably
Right
the
now?
most.
A few weeks ago?
This was about 7 days ago.
Wow.
Just got home a couple days ago, so yeah, it was fun. It was kind of a neat little adventure to take. So I have my vaccine, so I felt very comfortable traveling, and everything was great. So
Next time you need a helper, an assistant, a caddy, or anything that you might want to do, I will be there for you. I do not know. You know my passion for birds and for just the audience itself. The highest number of density of species in the world for any country, that is Colombia. Some of the most beautiful birds ever. It's a tropicality. The most number of hummingbirds as equal to Ecuador also, but Colombia is number one in birds. So I
oh
will
well,
come and take care of you. I can be your bodyguard. Awesome.
sounds
So
good.
again,
I'll let you know next time I go. So and then
absolutely. That will be really interesting. So again, I think everybody of us knows you are the VP Insights and Innovation at Shurtape Technologies. I know what we have planned. A couple of kind of slides from you, and then we can go into Q&A and try to understand more about this wonderful world of innovation that you are taking care of, and what we can be done in other parts of life. So let's hand it over to you, and you can share your screen.
well, great. Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and talk about innovation and even framing innovation from a thought process and a mindset standpoint. I thought it might make sense just quickly to go over a little bit of my background. I started my career in retail working for the Circuit City Stores organization. So I had a retail background and did some product management in the medical field. Went and had an opportunity to get my MBA in entrepreneurship from Babson College out of Boston. Little plug to my alma mater there. And then went into the consulting industry, actually doing technology, strategy, and process for retailers of all things. So my retail kind of came full circle on me, but doing projects for Fortune 500 companies all the way to .com startups. And due to a lifestyle change, my daughter was born in June of 2001, decided I wanted to shift from the lifestyle of consulting to back into industry, and had an opportunity to join what was Manco at the time as a product manager for the duct tape product line. And I have been with this company for 20 years now. And everything I'm going to tell you today, while I get to talk about it and kind of maybe seemingly take credit for a lot of it, it's really a team. One of the things I love about this company, one of the reasons why I've been here so long, is that we are very team-based. We have an amazing amount of just wonderfully talented professionals that make every single day a lot of fun to come to work. Don't get me wrong, there's no business utopia. They all have their warts, but I've really, after seeing dozens of business models in consulting, I really knew what a gem I found, which is why I chose to stay here so long. So just a little bit of background for those of you who aren't familiar with us. It's really kind of a neat entrepreneurial story. And while I'm based out of the consumer business, I want to talk to you today about something that is, while it's consumer based in its history, I think that the mindset adapts to commercial products very, very well. So the gentleman on the left is Jack Cale. He bought a little distribution company based in Cleveland, Ohio, that was selling tapes. That I think the sales in that year, he bought it in the early 70s, was a whopping $600,000. Grew the business, started to, and it was industrial, commercial, retail, had a retail focus as he grew the business. In the 80s, branded the retail version of duct tape with the yellow duck in it, and we continued to grow. They sold the company in 1998 to Henkel Corporation out of Dusseldorf, Germany, which is kind of a large conglomerate. They own Loctite, Dial soap. It's kind of like Procter and Gamble, but based in Europe. A diverse company if you're not familiar with them. And no, they're not the knives. That's the only thing I'll say. Anyhow, long and short, the original Manco portion of the business located in Avon, Ohio, the sales at that time, I think, were north of 200 million when they sold it off to Henkel in the late 90s. So
I'm just curious, what's the story behind the duck, or anything curious over there? Why that?
Well, so the duck was a vision from our founder, Jack, and he wanted to make it approachable and engaging for female shoppers that were coming across it within the context of, say, a Walmart store. What we reference as the chief household officer, so to speak, that main person. And so it was really about making it accessible to her. From a branding standpoint, and also duck, there was a lot of, I'll have a slide actually in a moment about it, but we'll tell a little bit about the history of duck versus duct. But long and short is in 2009, Henkel decided to get out of the tapes business globally. So they sold this to our largest vendor, Shurtape, which is a 5th generation family owned company based in Hickory, North Carolina. So what was really cool is we were now vertically integrated. Shurtape operates globally, one of the largest tape manufacturers in the world. And it really gave us this wonderful platform for growth and technology. And as the companies have come together over the last decade, we have a lot of teams like our innovation team that operate in the space between the consumer business and the commercial business. So as leading the insights and innovation team, I spend my time in both sides of the business and driving innovation through both of those. So I promised you a little bit about this on duck versus duck. This is always a big debate or discussion point online. It's always fun to watch. Someone says, "Oh, I love duct tape, spelled D-U-C-K," and then someone says, "No, dummy, it's spelled D-U-C-T," and then someone else responds and says, "No, duck is the brand." So here's the deal. It is duck, D-U-C-K, brand duct, D-U-C-T tape. So duct is the generic expression for the product. Duck is the brand. And part of that branding by Jack was to kind of take advantage of how phonetically identical those are, because a lot of people would just call it duct tape. They think it's generically D-U-C-K tape. So that's a little bit of the history of the evolution of the brand.
Nice, thank you.
So as we go forward from that, most people know duct tape as we joke and say father's favorite fix-all. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on planes or been at conferences and say, "Oh, I work for the duct tape company," and people stop and say, "Oh my gosh, this one time we were camping and my dad, the roof was leaking and my dad wrapped it up with duct tape and it saved our vacation," or somebody's bag exploded and they wrapped it up with duct tape and it saved their trip. Or just time after time we hear lots of stories about how duct tape saved the day, and really this silver tape was truly anchored in that story. As we did market research, we really kind of learned that one of the things people didn't like about the solution was that if they put, let's say, a couch ripped and they put duct tape on it, they were like, "Well, I kind of have to look at that silver tape." And so there was an array of colors that had evolved. Duct tape comes in all different types of colors. And so one of the things that the company did that I thought was really clever, and it started in 2001, was they started a program called Stuck at Prom. And it was a kind of a PR stunt to get kids to go to their high school proms in outfits made out of duct tape And what was successful about it was one of the few non-music, athletic, or academic scholarships available at the time. And I know probably a lot of you out there are thinking you have a vision of silver tape and someone wearing silver tape to the prom. But if you were to see, here's some examples of some of the outfits that the kids have made over the years. It really is a tremendous medium for expressing creativity and facilitating that self-expression.
Those are beautiful. I would never imagine if you had not mentioned that they are not duct tape.
Right, right. So if I was to tell you that this program is now 20 years old, we've given away hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships to these kids. But like I said, it started as a grassroots marketing campaign. So to tell you that in the first decade, this campaign generated over 1 billion media impressions for it. It was a very worthwhile endeavor for our company. And it was a key impetus for us connecting into this demographic to really help them understand that the product and the brand was something that was appealing to them. Now, I know a lot of the question in probably a lot of the listeners' minds right now is, okay, well, I thought we were talking about commercial products, but really, I thought this was a really representative story to talk about de-commoditizing a commodity. And that's really the emphasis of where the thought process goes from and the perspective that I try to offer. In a lot of ways, it's taking the commoditized, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, they have a commoditized item and they're looking at it going, how do I break out of this price only mentality? And one of the things that I want to talk about, and I'm just going to use this consumer product as an example, but I can't think of something, you know, kind of perceptually more generic than a roll of silver duct tape. You know, the story of this, and I think you'll find a lot of ways that thought process can apply to your commercial products as well. If you picture a traditional hardware company, even though we were consumer based, you know, walking into a boardroom to talk about, you know, hey, on the left, I know we sell these giant 60-yard rolls of silver duct tape for repair, but we think there's a market opportunity to appeal in a more formal way to this teen demographic who wants to make things out of tape and create value by adjusting what we're delivering to them. And you know, here's an example. Instead of 60 yards of the big silver tape, we're going to sell them 10 yards of the pink tape and, you know, do some licensing deal with Sanrio and put Hello Kitty on it and really appeal to that group. That was met with a little bit of skepticism, a little bit of resistance. But you know, at the end of the day, our company is very entrepreneurial. They took the leap of faith, and I will tell you that this ended up being a north of $100 million market for us. It was really surprising the impact and the magnitude of it. And by finding emotional drivers, which is really a key of what de-commoditizing can be about, getting out of functional benefits and finding a way to deliver meaningful emotional drivers to the end users is an absolute way to increase your margin structure, because I believe margin lives in emotion. You stop asking what's it cost and you start asking, what do I have to give up to get it? And you know, the particular demographics of this group weren't after the explicit quantity of functional benefit of the silver roll of tape. They were after self-expression, and they were after and just so those who aren't familiar with it, you might look at the tape and say, okay, well, were people really making clothes out of this? The answer is yes, but they were also engaged in a lot of projects like making duct tape flowers or making wallets or making bags, or all different kinds of things that they were doing as a form of self-expression. But again, I go back to that boardroom, that first boardroom meeting, you know, they're like, oh yeah, we'll sell that when pigs fly. And I'm like, okay, you can make that happen too. So this is actually our flying pigs duct tape that we did in fact sell at one point.
That is beautiful.
So just to talk a little bit about putting a whole marketing mix together. There's lots of stories within this, from creating duct tape, television advertisements that really spoke to the new uses and kind of, if you look at that celebrating a ductation, it was any opportunity you could bring duct tape in to make something or enhance something or make it your own. A lot of these teens would want to, they wanted the same pair of UGG boots that everybody else had, but they would put a strip of their favorite duct tape around it to personalize it so they could fit in and yet at the same time express themselves and stand out. One of the other things that's on here is our digital marketing. If I was to tell you in 2008, our Facebook fan page was close to 6 million followers, and that was very teen centric at that time. That was right after the iPhone came out in 2007, was a cultural influence of a lot of this. It really was a time when people were sharing and they wanted to be creative and they were trying to express themselves as that creative person. And this is all important background because this is how you identify those emotional drivers. You use your social media, you get the insights, and then being smart enough to use those tools. Like we would put an array of prints and patterns out on our social media and ask people which ones their favorites were. And whatever rose to the top were the ones that we launched. And it was a great early use of social media and product development for us. Even back to the Stick Together handprint on the left was about an anti-bullying campaign that we did where we made a roll of tape that had a particular print on it and then donated money to that campaign. The Avon Heritage Duct Tape Festival. Yes, there's actually a duct tape festival that took place in Avon, Ohio on Father's Day weekend. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it's been suspended, but for more than, I think it was almost 15 years, every single year it was like a hometown festival that was dedicated to everything duct tape.
That is some phenomenal. I cannot imagine a thing as an, let's say, a duct tape can be so personalized, so customized, and so emotionally charged as such. To do a festival, let's say something else.
To keep it engaging. And I recognize that some of these things would be difficult to do if you didn't have a consumer facing program, but maybe it inspires or triggers something that someone does have a broad-based reach of their product that does span the commercial into consumer and give some other ideas. And then I already mentioned our Stuck at Prom. But if I was to dig down a little bit more into the products, it's really about that creating value through the experience. So after we started to get some traction with all this, after we had a mechanism to understand how to talk to the consumers over the following years from that, we started to ask questions like, okay, so what are the problems you're having? Traditional innovative type questions. What are the problems you're having when you're going through duct tape crafting? And then we were even really creative in how we solve those problems. Like in the lower left, one of the problems people had when they were crafting with duct tape is it would gum up their scissors. So, we're not in the scissor business. So we found Fisker's brand and did a co-branded opportunity with them to create a pair of scissors that were specifically marketed for duct tape projects. And the power of putting your brand together with somebody else's brand, especially a 300-plus-year-old brand like Fisker's, does a lot to build credibility in the consumer's mind, especially if that partnering brand has such a substantial base or natural reference into that particular market, in this case, like a crafter market. But the planograms here, just to show you, there's all kinds of prints and colors that came out through technology that we were able to do. We even changed the formats to do sheets of duct tape to make it easier for people who were trying to make wallets, or they could put it through like a cutter machine. And then we got into exploding our licensing programs. You see NFL, Major League Baseball, movies, anything that was a cultural reference for that particular area we dove into and attached it to the product to create that emotional attachment and experience to them. And then even to the lower right, we use some technology to add scent. We asked ourselves, well, what, you have the tactile feel, the sound, is there a smell that we could add to adjust that experience or create new value through that experience? So we launched a line of scented duct tape that was just, as we saw users were engaging a little bit earlier, they enjoyed that candy smell or in this case, a bubble gum or whatever it was. So it was really kind of digging in, understanding a value driver that was beyond the functional aspect of the product, and then finding ways to deliver that to market.
Just, just very curious. Means right now already it is a household brand, but even before this, I think we talk about household. Everybody knows. Let's say a Lego. I think as a household brand, everybody would be knowing a duct tape as such too, right? Means it might be because of the Apollo 13 program. Duct tape was
Uh,
the predominant. That's how actually I knew, and then I knew about the duct tape brand as such. But it's pretty fascinating to see that it will be an. I think I do not know whether you did that research or not, but where does it rank with these other common household brands?
You know what? I don't have a recent study. I do know the one statistic I knew was that we were the highest ranking Facebook page in 2008, non-food or beverage. I know that's a dozen years ago, but you know, it was up there. I don't have a recent brand study that I can quote for you, but
That's pretty interesting,
but
right?
our social media has definitely been the impetus of a lot of our brand's growth and the anchoring of our brand's growth. But to me, it's been more anecdotal. As I mentioned, I would get on the plane and tell somebody, "Hey, you know, I work for the duct tape company," and they'd start by saying, "Oh, hey, my dad fixes everything." But now I get in a plane and I tell people I work for the duct tape company, and more times than not, I hear, "Oh my God, my kids make everything out of that." And so it's been really fun to be with the same company for such a long period of time and see this evolution of the product really come. And it gives me a lot of satisfaction when I'm driving through the neighborhood and I see the dad pushing the lawnmower and it's now taped with pink duct tape, because I know he went and stole his kid's roller tape to fix his lawnmower. Whereas, you know, 15 years ago, the kid was going in the garage to take the dad's roll of duct tape. So it's kind of this whole transition that's happened in this group. So
Yeah, that's
that was
pretty.
just a little. I know it's consumerish, but it's kind of a little story I wanted to share with everybody today, because again, I think it's relevant to what we can talk about in terms of identifying needs, identifying emotions, and then finding new ways, you know, breaking out of the paradigm of looking at your product as a commodity to find a new way to create a new value driver.
No, this is completely on the point. I think as Sherry is writing in the chat too, when something is as utilitarian as a roll of tape, then how you try to enhance the social phenomenon with this being fun and creative and inspirational one, it's a perfect way to, because finally we are finally putting the entire portfolio as a brand in front of people. There is no reason why it cannot have associations with social, personal consumerism as such too.
Yeah, so that was really just kind of the slides I wanted to share with you, and I knew our next segment would kind of go into just some Q&A. So I was that was the core of it, at
That,
least
that
the story wise.
that's beautiful. I know there are so many questions right in that world also of where to next, right? Means already you have gone into the creative crafts and the Etsy and the hobby world, and people or kids are selling stuff, selling purses and selling wallets, and hopefully making a decent margin over there. By the way, margin is in emotions is a pretty apt term of how you leverage those elements. I think, as I said, there is nothing in this world as devoid of emotion, and your product rightfully proves it. So just a couple of questions from me. How do you, if at all, translate this kind of an insights and learning into the actual commercial aspects of the silver duct tape world?
Yeah, so you know, one of the things, probably the most important aspect that I can tell you of what we're doing from a learning standpoint, is that a couple of years ago, our company made an adjustment where innovation was heavily integrated with our internal R&D teams, and our R&D teams spend a lot of time focused on making adjustments to processes, equipment, technology to evolve it on things we sell. And it's kind of a make to sell basis, right? How can we adjust? And now we have this new technology, so now it can do this, and who needs it? Kind of evolution. Our team was put in place in 2019 to bring a specific outside in focus on our innovation. And so it's you know, the insights, obviously the market research portion first, followed by the innovation. So it's that outside in, as opposed to a perspective of marketing being something we go out and do do to somebody. It's more, how do we bring the voice of the customer inside our company and change what we're doing to deliver what they need. And so some of the aspects of this are being out in the field, doing research in certain areas, getting very deep, for example, with HVAC contractors, understanding their different wants and needs and motivations and what their process looks like, and then finding new ways that we can bring alternative solutions to them that address those needs or those pain points as part of their process. I don't have a specific one I can share with you on that exactly, but the process is the same. It doesn't happen within our four walls. It happens out in the market in the minds of the end users. And understanding the end users and understanding what their journeys are like with their products, and then finding those emotional anchors that you can hit on.
That's pretty interesting. So, I understand the process is the same, but I think in the world of insights and information gathering, it comes down from the consumer side, and maybe eventually folks a little bit for the commercial world, for plumbers or all the trades as such. But predominantly, you're right. The approach will always be similar or same.
Well, I think traditionally, especially in the DIY markets, what we've seen are more solutions that evolve in the commercial markets and then end up in the DIY space, because the contractor will adopt that particular solution, and then it becomes, people see their contractors using it over time, and then they're like, oh, I want the one that the contractor uses. And so we see some of the solutions in the DIY space evolve there, and then maybe there's adaptations to adapt it to a consumer. But I think for us, it's really that outside in mentality that I can't enforce enough how important that is, because it's unusual that we would have an answer sitting around our office unless we know the question that the consumers really values. We talk all the time about this concept of value creation and then value capture. So if you create something that you think is valuable, but it's not valuable in the mind of the consumer or the mind of the end user, you're going to have trouble capturing that value, i.e. your pricing power out in the market. You're not going to get a premium. You're not going to be able to get the margin for it. If you start by a perspective of understanding what the market values, and then come back and create a product that you already know they're going to value, it's easier to capture that value once you've created it. So again, it's that outside in versus, hey, I have a new widget because if we make it off our machine, it now does this, versus, versus, hey, the consumer needs something, or the end user needs something, or a contractor that can do this. And
very rightly said. It's most typically the answers are always found right there on the field. You have to make sure you go there, observe them, grasp them, and then eventually you have to optimize them to fit your internal strategy and manufacturing processes as such. That's always beautiful. A couple of questions. One question is from Jeffrey. And this will be to the entire, I think, the product development process as such. When starting on a new product, how do you balance accommodation of specific customer features versus a scalable product?
Great question. My experiences have been, it's varied between our ability to customize and how important is portraying the emotional aspect through that customization versus maybe something's more broad. If I'm hearing the question right, it's like, okay, somebody has a very specific need, but how do you scale that if it's really, it's a great challenge, and it depends on the product line and the size of the capital investment that we've got that pumps out the regular item versus something that maybe needs to be customized a little more.
And that makes sense. I think it's very difficult to solve or make an answer for a little bit more a generic question as such. I just have a question. we saw plenty of, let's say, patterns right now, as you showed on your duct tapes, and some of them are creative or flying pigs. Or I saw uh, my university also, Michigan Spartans Go Green, over there. How are you also trying to go to the other markets? Let's say if you go to, are you in markets like India or China, and then if or when you go over there, are you trying to embrace their iconography, their graphic, I would say, perceptions, and use them? How are the plans? Is it part of, are you outside in other worlds?
So our company does operate on a global basis. Some of the markets we've found within the tape phenomenon itself are less mature, even more just value driven. Like would use India as a good example. The opening price point items. There's a longer education process that's going to go on in those markets before some of these value added items are going to take hold. So we think it's going to be an opportunity. It's just not there yet. The market itself on some of these products isn't mature enough yet.
That always makes sense. There will always be the quality and the sure system of the tape and the gums and the
Yeah, and
adhesiveness of it. I think going forward, you have duct tapes, but you have plenty of other I would say brands too. How do you find commonalities, or when you say partnerships, right? Means within you and Fiskars, you had a partnership, but within this other sub brands of Shurtape, are you also trying to help brands connect with each other or stick with each other?
yeah, for sure. We have an array of painting tape brands. We have an array of duct tape brands, whether it's our premium T-Rex tapes, which compete at that highest level of performance, or our frog tape on the painting tape side that have, super high performance and specialty applications. We're always looking for ways to make sure that when we're going into a market, we're putting the right foot forward into that end market, and then exposing people to the alternatives. What do I mean by that? Like, let's say you're going into somebody that like a contractor market, a painting contractor market, for example, that might be in production. How do you lead with something that's a high use item, but then be able to expose them to the specialty items around it? It's just a delicate dance with the brands. It's more the branding game at that point.
It is always a delicate dance. A nice choice of words over there. I love the mascots that you have, a duck and the frog, and then right little T-Rex. You are covering the entirety of this. I would say the kingdoms over there. Let's go to another question. Greg is asking, and this might be on just a higher level. How do we design those three elements together of any experience? You talked about the experiential part, right? The emotional part. But coming back to the product design, the service design, which might not be a higher aspect over here, but the digital incarnation of what you do, when it comes to the brand element, how should a company bring synchronicity between all these three?
Oh, that's a great question. So if I'm understanding the question, you have a first of all, if you're going to pursue an innovation and put it under a brand, there should already be some natural connection between the consumer's mind or the end user's mind and your brand. So if I'm hearing the question right, it's how do you create the digital aspects of that with the service aspects and the physical product?
Absolutely.
We look at, we're always trying to figure out, are there service aspects that we can add to our business? We like the thought of service aspects to our business, and we're always trying to identify what value we could create in educating the consumer or the end user. We have those digital learning platforms that we certainly use to educate people about the products, but I think it's, the internal communication, what's the mechanism to synchronize? At the end of the day, it's just communication. And what are those touch points that you can use? We have a structured innovation platform with regular set interval meetings and touch points and stage gate processes to ensure those cross communications between the departments, between the actual product manufacturer, the products, the production, and our marketing teams to synchronize that. So we use that type of communication structure, and usually it's the role of the I&I team to kind of paint the vision of how those things are going to come together for the new product. So ultimately, we're responsible for ensuring that communication takes place. But outside of that, I'm not sure if there's a defined process for that.
Coming back to the world of means, no matter what, I think as you might have said, or everybody is doing to make sure we are always keeping a tab on the current market macro trends, and no matter what, the big good elephant in the room is the sustainability part of it, and how every company is trying to go and adhere to it. How do you look on that perspective? I mean, if we're talking about sustainability, is a huge continuum. It is not just single use or a material play. It can be durability or a 100-year Leatherman stainless steel knife play. Both are absolutely sustainable. It might be a concrete bench or it might be something else. How do you see about the role over there? How I see is essentially, if you're using duct tape, you're always repairing something and taking care of something that was broken. So you are essentially helping upcycle, recycle, reuse, or repurpose things rather than throwing it away. But how do you see this? And again, I don't want to restrict it just to the father's tape of mending or repairing things, but that world is a part of sustainability push, right?
Well, for sure. You know, that there's a lot of things, just the core repair of the product. Well, let me back up. Sustainability as a topic in our world is absolutely changing. It's growing its importance, and I'm happy that we've gone through this awakening as a society to put this far more on the forefront, because I think there was, you know, just 10 years ago, there was an intolerance for consumers to pay more for anything just because it was eco-friendly. And I feel that that's changed. You know, the current research shows that that's really changed, that people are willing to spend a little bit more, or maybe give up a little bit of a performance variable to have something that's more sustainable. And for us, we're constantly asking the questions. You said it perfectly. It's not black or white. It's a continuum. And you know, is there? We could make the world's most recyclable painting tape, for example, and as soon as someone put paint on it, it's no longer recyclable. So how pragmatic of a solution is that really? And we can do all the things within the practices to make sure that we're doing things like not using solvent-based adhesives, but now using water-based adhesives. We can look at all of our other factors within that and understand how we can make our products more sustainable. At the end of the day, from a marketing perspective, duct tape, some of the colors, it's inherently useful in upcycling. It's inherently useful in making things, prolonging the life of things that otherwise might need to be replaced. And that it certainly helps. The other facet is just being able to cover something. We saw a lot of furniture upcycling / recycling with college kids that would take their college logo duct tape and they would cover a chair, they'd cover a couch with it, like an old couch. And so it would give it new life for their dorm room. So that's, I think there's, it's definitely inherent in the product that way. I don't think we're pushing that explicitly at some level, but on the backside, we're, gosh, every day having conversations about how to be more sustainable as a company, how to be more sustainable in production, and how to make sure that the product components are more sustainable.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Going back to the questions, maybe this question was when you were showing the first or the second or the third slide, is from Gary Rose. Was the vertical integration with Shurtape the launch pad for your innovation capabilities, or due to the control over core competencies?
So the answer to that question is no. It was really in this example that I was given, that I was giving you, it was more the application of social media and digital marketing to be able to reach into that end market and understand what their emotional drivers were and bring that back in. So there was definitely a component of new printing capabilities, which helped facilitate that. But I wouldn't say that was the launch pad for it. It was really more the digital marketing initiatives, which we had started prior to that integration. I think now the way we're thinking about innovation from a far more technical standpoint than what we were before, looking at more of the product components, the adhesive components, the drivers of the technology within a particular tape, and how to enhance that. Let me give you an example. In our T-Rex brand, we have a tape that has a cloth layer in it that is so strong that it's our T-Rex brute force product. It is so strong that you can wrap a single layer around a bar that can suspend 700 pounds and literally lift that. You can lift up a pallet with a single strip of tape and hold 700 pounds.
Wow.
And you can walk into the store and buy it for $15. It's really like a chain on a roll. It's really what this tape is. So the technology has helped our abilities from a technical standpoint, being closer to our technical development teams, has definitely helped that, but it wasn't necessarily the launch pad for it. We work really close together. In fact, a member of my team, so I'm based out of our Avon offices, but we have teammates that are actually based in the R&D facilities down in our Hickory, North Carolina plants as well. So we kind of have our fingers in both sides of the business.
That's nice to know about this extra strong T-Rex band. 700 pounds, that's a lot. It's literally a pallet,
Yeah.
more like that. I know I have to save some time at the end because we want to go. I know you are also in the fitness world, and your amazing, I would say, perspectives on the way we are looking at what we should be doing in our health, wellness, and fitness. So maybe we can end on that. But before that, a few questions. The question from Jeffrey: how has the progression of your market demographic impacted your initial business model?
Well, that's a great question. It was one of the things that we discussed from a brand perspective as we moved into this kind of craft teen demographic with our brand. We didn't want to isolate dad who thought his roll of duct tape was, gray and strong and tough. And that was part of the evolution of our T-Rex premium line of products over there to kind of protect that beachhead on the traditional repair side of things by making a high performance tape that really appealed more to that core demographic. But yeah, there was a lot of discussion. Yeah, it's from a branding standpoint, it's it's a balance. It's something that you have to manage through for sure, because you're shifting your brand to mean something to an entirely new group. And by the way, those kids that wore their outfits to the prom 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they're all homeowners today. They're all in business and industry and making purchase decisions based on their historical knowledge and understanding. And their perception of that brand is linked to that color duct tape now. So, we have to manage through that. The good thing is that they trust it. The underlying relationship with the brand is about trust and creativity. And at its core, it's makers, right? These makers that are now a growing segment of our population that are out trying. So.
And hats off to the way the intentional and the organic placement of the brand in the psyche of people. Means, as you rightly said, when they're younger, they were exposed to the brand. now, and now they're homeowners. Not only they're going to recollect that, but they're going to remember the way difference it made for their prom. It was an, they might still be showing the photos of the dresses they will be doing. So not only is they have been used it, but they have actually used it to make a difference in their life, and they will be proud to showcase if the prom went well, what happened. So it's an amazing way. I think plenty of brands are very want to always aim to do that, and maybe in their domain it might not be easy to do that. Some brands have to go way out of the way to make sure people reach their brand, right? Means like uh, uh, let's say Michelin is a tire manufacturing company, but they went way out of the way to make the maps, because that eventually help people find places to visit, and then more cars are running and more miles clocked on the mile and more tires to be changed. It sounds pretty evil right now, but that's the way they use a completely different tool. Even the Michelin 5-star restaurants, there is an amazing kind of a way to finally put and push your initial business model. But your thing is happening organically, and you are intentionally moving it out and still working in the similar, I would say, core capacities. As so that's really really beautiful. I know we have maybe 8 or 9 minutes more. Before we even go to, I really enjoyed last time when we were talking about your perspectives of how to take, means coming back to this world, the reality of the world. Last year was COVID, this year we still have traces of it, but the way your outlook is on looking at the fitness, not just the physical fitness, but the well-being, the mind, and the positivity of it. What any nuggets that you want to share with us that you helped yourself, or the people who seek out guidance from you in the mental health and the physical health, and what should we learn from that?
Sure. So just one of the other things in my background, I think I was an early adopter of the side hustle model, in that I started an indoor cycling studio. Just, it was part of my personal passion, with my second wife. Actually, this weekend is our 10th anniversary, so celebrating
Yay.
our 10-year milestone, which we're really proud of. And the best thing is that it's given us the opportunity to give back to our local community and create a community of health and wellness minded individuals here in our market. But if I was telling you, our brand is Cycle, it's spelled Psycle, and our website is cycletherapy.com. Really, the difference is about mindset. It's about a growth mindset, and it's really recognizing what I believe to be more of an Eastern philosophy way of life versus Western philosophy. And what do I mean by that? In the West, we're taught an if-then statement of happiness. If I get this car, then I'll be happy. If I get this job, then I'll be happy. If I get this house, then I'll be happy. And the problem with that is that you're instantly linking your happiness to something that's scarce. There's only so many of those cars, and only so many of those titles, and only so many of those houses. And the reality is that happiness is infinite. Our ability to be happy, our ability to love and be happy is infinite. And the Eastern philosophy is wake up and choose happy, and you will attract into your life all the things that support that happiness. Now, it might not look like what you think it's going to look like, but I guarantee you it's going to be exactly what you need. And it's recognizing that life is happening for you and not to you is so important, because that mindset shift, you can see it in people around you. Something happens, the people who go, oh my God, that happened. And it's okay to be unhappy about something in a moment when it happens. But if you continue down that path and you can recognize, wow, you know what, that happened, and what can I learn from it? And what does that tell me? And what do I need to do now that takes me in a different direction? I just really, part of our studio is about disconnecting, is about using that hour on the bike to actually work on yourself and work on your mindset. And, that will ultimately, all those things that are limiting thoughts that we have in our mind, when you work through those and you realize that they're just thoughts, and you can push past it, whether it's a physical feeling of, oh my goodness, I'm going as fast as I can and I can't stand anymore. And you push past that wall for just a few seconds. And you realize you're stronger than you think you are. You can do more than you think you're capable of. All of a sudden, that mindset, that attitude starts to translate outside of that classroom and starts to affect everything in your life. So it starts with waking up every day and choosing to be happy, understanding that life is happening for you, and then realizing that you're so much more capable and stronger than you can even realize. And when you put all that together, you wake up every day with a smile on your face. So that's my free advice today, and you get what you pay for.
No, that is beautiful. Means even the way of trying to juxtapose both the, let's say, the Eastern philosophy and the Western philosophy, and how it is still a choice for what you can be happy with. Means I know you were not there at the start, but I started this with the first book, and in about some of the people just say, hey, I'm still sheltered in place, I'm isolated in my house. And I said, no, it's you are in your house, you're not isolated, you are still trying to, you can do so many things, you're with your loved ones, with your kids, you can take care of your garden. It's not that you're in a prison. You're thinking, your thoughts are limiting you to be in that.
Yes.
It's not 20 years ago where we would have been really isolated if we were in house. There's so much technology and other things that can still, you can learn newer things, you can apply yourself to newer fitness or mind kind of and fitness program. So this actually is bringing all the way in what you are trying to address. Things you have to work on yourself, you have to push yourself, and either or means if you are thinking positively, it might help you be a better elite athlete in the gym. The other way also, as you're saying, you can push yourself to release those strong endorphins, and each and every day go one set more or one speed level more, and that small micro victories, you're right, then they seep or steep back into your everyday other elements. It might be your work, it might be uh, other things that you might be doing, your social, family, friends, or business network. That's what I distinctly remembered from our last conversations. And I just added the link to your studio over there. Which place are you again? Means if people who are near to you, they can come and check you out. Are you are
We're,
near Cleveland, right?
we're near Cleveland. Yeah, we're in a suburb of Cleveland. But
One day, as I promised last time, I'm near your place. I'm going to do a spin class. I have never done a spin class, but I like to hear you and what you say during the class. So one day we will make that happen. But once again, Scott, thank you really a lot for sharing this brand message of what duct tape is and was and is going to be, and for the other elements also over there. So thank you,
well,
really.
I have to say thank you to you for having me today, and I'd be remiss if I didn't once again reiterate that this is a team sport, and it takes all of us to do it. And one of the things I'm so grateful for in my life is the fact that I have an incredible group of people to work with on the I&I team every single day. So I'm really, it makes it easy to wake up and come down and get on my Zoom calls for the day when, you love the people you get to work with, and they add something to your day every day. So if any of them are out there listening, just know how much I value you. Thank you.
I love your optimism, and hopefully we all here are nicely motivated and inspired by it. Thank you, Scott. And
Thank
coming
you
back,
so much.
yeah, absolutely. And coming back to the audience, thank you again for braving through the last 4 hours. We really had an exceptional kind of, and I would say, parade of the distinguished speakers that we all saw as such. So we started with the case of Detroit Light series from Lumicon. Bob, the founder and president, led us through that. That was pretty amazing to see how functional elements can still be exceptional as such too. And then eventually we went around and looked at the aux tools against things that we will still be using in our world or in the commercial world, and the thought process over there to see how the brand or the product and which one comes before or after. And then amazing kind of in the burner invisible products which can still make a difference, can still go and right beyond the trend of sustainability, and still try to go and take care of this I would say aggravations, or I would say helplessness that sometimes people have about being ugly or being too loud as such. And then coming back to wrap it up from Shurtape's perspective, the genesis of duct tape or duct tape, and understanding how we can still use a commercial product, let's say inject that into the world of consumerism, getting onto the brand with younger kids, college kids, and then eventually trying to see how they're using and leveraging and organically growing that brand somewhere else. So as I always say, product design or product innovation, there is design where you look at. It doesn't just have to be a sexy looking vehicle. Any product, even as functional that you might be thinking, has its own placement in the world and how people are going to look at it. If you're not building your strategy or your look and feel for it or your message for it, people are going to build it for themselves. So keep it in your hands. If you want to reach out to myself, to Lanaya, to talk more about design, as you know, we will love to do that. But if you want to suggest any other speakers for our next coming webinars, let us know. We will have a look at that. And till that time, Cheerios. It's 4 o'clock. Let's try to end it right on the dot. Enjoy, and we will see you again next month for another installment of glorious speakers like this. Thank you, Lanea, again. Thank you for the entire team at Sundberg-Ferar to put this together. And see you soon. And I would love to hear more any feedback from you as we go forward. Thank you, and over and out. Bye.